Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. It's less than a week now, so let's make that Christmas tree you all asked for. And if you enjoy this tutorial, please leave a like, it really helps my channel to grow. And if you're new to the channel and you'd like to see content like this in the future, please hit that subscribe and the bell button additionally if you want to get notified when I release something new. And if you're new to the world of 3D and Blender, and you want to become a 3D illustrator, go and check out my courses that are carefully designed to teach you beginner and intermediate skills in quickest and most effective way. For example, with the new Ultimate 3D bundle, you can go from simple cubic designs all the way to full character illustration in a matter of weeks. So if you're interested, please go check out the link in the description. So before we start, you'll need to go into the edit preferences and let's choose add-ons and search for sapling. And you'll need to activate this add-on that will enable some additional features when adding curves. So just tick the box here and you're good to go. And now let's press Shift A, go to curve and sapling tree gen. That will generate some tree scaffolding for you. And there are some additional options here in the bottom left corner. You can expand the panel and you can see we can load a preset here. So let's click that and there is an option for small pine. So that's something we're looking for. And now of course you can go to the leaf section here and choose to show leaves, but I don't like how this looks. It's maybe too realistic. I'm looking for more semi-realistic look on that Christmas tree, something you would use on marketing materials or some illustration, some stylized diorama or something. So I want these pine needles to be more pronounced, a little bit more bulky, and overall a little bit more illustrative. So I will choose to disable this option for now, and let's just move on with our tree. Now let's look from the front and we can see the tree is like 5 meters tall, so let's reduce it to maybe half. So press S, scale it down, and now press Ctrl A and apply scale. So with the tree ready, we can now create these pine needles. So let's press Shift A and let's go to mesh and add the cylinder. Now press G, then X and move it to the side so the tree doesn't get in the way. Press Tab and scale this down. Okay, something like this. We can zoom a little bit closer and press R, X and 90 degrees to rotate this. And now just select these vertices on the side, press G then Y and make it longer. Okay, and additionally we can bevel the endpoint, so press Ctrl B and bevel it like this. And I'm looking for really low poly geometry here. We'll use a lot of these pine needles. So something like this. Maybe we can press A, press S to scale it, and Shift Y to scale it only on X and Z axis if it's too thick. So that's upon you to decide. And now let's tab out, hold Shift S and switch cursor to select it so it moves to the origin point of our new object. And now press Shift A and let's add another cylinder. And let's tab in and press S to scale it down like this. Okay, that should work. And now we can toggle X-ray. Select these top vertices, press G, then Z and move it up. So that's the one needle we'll need here, and we can press Ctrl B again and bevel the endpoint. And we can maybe refine the length a little bit. And now I want to distribute this around this central stem. So let's press Shift A and let's add an empty plane axis. We'll use it to control the array modifier. And this is a little bit too large, so let's switch to object data properties and reduce the size of this empty. And now select the pine needle again and let's go to the modifiers and add array modifier. And now disable a relative offset and let's enable object offset, and let's pick our empty with the eyedropper tool. And now we can increase the count a little bit. Select our empty, press G, then Y and move it. So now you can see we are controlling the offset with the empty, which is very useful because now we can rotate it as well. So let's press R, Y and start rotating, and it will look like this. And I want to enter this manually, so I will enter 30 degrees and confirm by pressing enter. And now we can increase the count so it goes all the way towards the end, just like that. Maybe one more. Okay, that should work. And now we can just duplicate this. So select the needle and now press Alt D, R to enable rotation, Y along Y axis, and let's just rotate 120 degrees and confirm. And now when you chain these commands together, you can just press Shift R to repeat them. and you will have something like this here. And of course, if you want them to be closer together, you can just select the empty, press G then Y, and bring them closer like this. And additionally, select all of these by holding Shift, and now by holding Alt in the modifier options, you can increase this count. And it will do it for all the instances you have selected. So now let's refine this and clean this up a little bit. So let's apply these modifiers, but to do that we actually need to unlink these objects because we duplicated them with Alt D, so our apply modifier option is disabled. And to unlink them, you will need to select at least 2 of them and go to Object, Relations, Make Single User, Object and Data, and this will enable this option here. So now that they are separated, we don't need to apply the modifiers manually. We can just select all of these here, right click, convert to, and mesh. They will apply modifiers as well. And now just delete the empty and let's join them. So select all, shift click the central stem and press Ctrl J. So now that we have them part of a single object, we can just select the front part here like this. Press O for proportional editing and press S to scale down, and you can control the fall off with the mouse wheel and do something like this so it's not so uniform. Okay, tab out and right click and shade smooth. You can see the shading is a little bit low poly, but this will be more than enough if we distribute them with the particle system. So that's our pine needle, and now we can just select our tree. Let's go to the curve settings, geometry, and let's reduce the resolution to 1. And now right click, convert to, and mesh as well. So now we can add some particle systems. So let's go to the particle system and create one. And now I want to set frame start to 0, frame end to 0, and disable physics. And now let's go to the vertex groups and let's create a new vertex group. And now let's tab in. Press A to select all. Now hover over the central trunk and press Shift L to deselect it. So we are now selecting only branches, and click Assign. So we have a vertex group only for these branches. And now in the particle settings, we can go down to the vertex groups and set the group for density and length. So you will see it's only on the branches. Now let's go to the render and switch halo to object, and let's choose our cylinder here. Okay, and now we can just increase the scale, play with some more settings. Let's enable rotation here and let's randomize it a little bit. Okay, and now in the render settings, we want to increase that scale randomness, and now we can play with the number of vertices and make it a little bit more dense. Okay, I think this will work fine. Maybe we can play with the final scale of these. And now what we can do is to refine the vertex group a little bit, because you can see here at the top it's a little bit too dense. So let's tab in, and maybe you can just selectively select some of these vertex points, go to the object data properties and remove them from group, and you will see how that changes and how that affects your particle system. So I think I'm okay with a tree like this. And it looks a little bit messy, but it will all change when we add some lighting. So let's go to the render settings, and here we can enable ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflection for some better EV previews. But now I want to switch to cycles. I will switch to GPU and enable denoising. So now if we switch to the render preview, you can see it has that nice, bulky, stylized look. These needles are really pronounced even at this scale, so that's what I wanted to go for. And of course you can play with some additional settings with the particle system. So you can play with the source, you can try to emit them from vertices. That might look a little bit better, maybe, so I'll probably leave it like this and update this vertex group even more. And now if you go to the render view, you will see how the shadows will do the rest of the work. And if we hold Shift S and reset the cursor to world origin, press Shift A, and let's add a light. Let's press G then Z and move it up. and let's set this to something like 150. You will see that nice shape and nice stylized needles. And what we can do next is to go to the solid view, and first of all I'd like to move this object to a separate collection that can be hidden. So let's select the pine needles here, press M, new collection, and let's call this assets, and let's just disable the collection. And now we can add some lights here. So let's press Shift A, and if you don't have so many options here, you can go to the add-ons again and look for extra objects curves. You will enable it, and then it will give all of these options to you, and you can go for spirals, and let's choose Archimedean here, and we'll need to edit some settings. So first of all we'll need some radius growth and some height, and of course more turns. Okay, and we can go negative on the height, so something like minus 0.25, so it's similar to the tree. And let's go positive on the radius growth. Let's reduce the radius like this. Let's look from the front, and let's try to mimic the shape of the tree. Maybe let's reduce the turns a little bit and make it just higher. Okay, that works fine, and now we can just tab out, press G then Z and move it up like this and scale it down so it better matches the tree. And we have now nice spiral going around, so it will be really easy to add some lights here. We can additionally of course scale this around. Okay, and now let's press Shift A, let's go to mesh and let's add a round cube, and let's change the preset to quad sphere, and let's reduce to something like 3. That should be enough. Right click, shade smooth, and now tab in and just make it smaller like this. And of course we can move it to the side as well. And now let's select the spiral, and we'll add yet another particle system. So first we'll need to convert this to mesh, so right click, convert to mesh, and let's go to particle settings. Let's create a new one, and again we'll set frame start to 0 and to 0 and disable physics. And you might ask why I'm not using geometry nodes for this. I didn't quite get into it yet, and I don't like the lengthy setup with the nodes and everything. I think this is really quick way how to distribute objects. Particle systems work still really well. I would go for geometry nodes if I need something more complex and better controlled, but for some random distribution around the mesh, I think particle system works fine. So let's disable those physics. And in the render we can switch this to object and choose our round cube here. And of course there's nothing yet because we need to change the source here at the top from faces to vertices. And now play with the scale. And of course towards the top, when it's too dense, you can just tab in, select these vertices and go to select, checker, deselect, and press Ctrl X to dissolve them so they are not so dense up there. And now we can disable random order, and now you can reduce the number, or you can tab in and you can count the vertices. In the bottom right corner you can see there are 74 vertices here, so if we set this to 74, it should be exactly the number we need. Okay, so that's the simple low poly tree with the light. And now we can press Shift A, mesh, and add another round cube, and let's increase the subdivisions to something like 5. Let's choose shade smooth and make it smaller, and this will be just few decoration we can move around. So let's place it somewhere on the tree, let's scale it down, and by pressing Alt D we can just duplicate them and decorate our tree. Okay, after you distributed a few of these around, the last thing I want to do is to add a star. And yet again, if you go into the add-ons preferences, you can enable extra objects for mesh as well. Then you will have option to create a simple star. So let's press Shift A, mesh, extras, and simple star. And let's press G, then Z, move it up. Now I want to modify this, of course, so tab in, and let's press 3 for face select. Select these top faces, press X, and delete vertices, And now we can select this vertex right there, press G, then Z, and move it down. Now what we can do is to select these top vertices and open the sign panel with N, and in the local Z position just enter 0, and then select the bottom vertex and move it up. Okay, now we can tab out, go to the modifiers tab, add a mirror modifier and switch it to Z, turn off X, enable clipping, and now press Ctrl A to apply. Now we can tab out, scale it down, and we have our simple star. So press R, X 90 degrees. Let's look from the front. Let's rotate it a little bit. And there's your Christmas tree. So let's check it in the render settings. And I really like how this looks, but the great thing on this, it's really customizable. So if you go to the solid view again and tab into the edit mode of the tree, you can, for example, select all of these branches down here by hovering and pressing L over them. And then, you can press S and Shift Z to scale them up to make the tree really larger at the bottom there. So great control to refining your particle systems, your distribution, the thickness of your pine needles, because if you go to the hidden collection and select the cylinder, you can press Alt S to scale along normals and make it thicker or thinner, whatever works for you. So yeah, great control how to shape your tree and to basically get as close to the final style you need as possible. So let me move this to our hidden collection as well. And I will now proceed and give this some materials and play with those lights so we have some nice final render with our tree. I will fast forward through this process, so remember, you can slow down the YouTube video playback if you want to see it in more detail, and I will see you on the other side. So that's the Christmas tree for you. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave that like, it will really help me. And again, if you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.